everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Tana Atwood, and I'm a mortgage advisor in Fort Collins, Colorado, with the Tenacious Mortgage Group powered by CMG Financial. And I have a very special guest today. He is head VP of All-in-One Financing, which is a unique product to CMG. And that's what we wanted to spend some time talking about, answering in a dialogue format, some common questions that we get, and really unpacking a product that Dave and I are both super passionate about. And Dave, thanks for taking the time out. Wish we were at the brewery this time, but good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, likewise. I miss the brewery. I keep, I'm on their mailing list. So each time I get a email notification of something going on at the brewery there in Fort Collins, I think of you and the team. So anyway, hopefully we can get back to traveling. I can come back out and visit and do another, presentation there at the brewery. That was a lot of fun, but good to be with you today. I appreciate you having me.
Why don't we start by just giving some background? What is the all-in-one loan?
Simply put, the all-in-one loan is an alternative to traditional, financing. It's a mortgage product that we as an organization pioneered about 16 years ago, June of 2005, actually. The reason why we innovated a new type of mortgage product was that we do believe we are not only responsible for making financing options and homeownership an opportunity for people. With that comes a lot of burden, comes a lot of liability, debt specifically. We as a lender are also responsible for helping people get out of that debt, right? Finding ways to get out of that debt more easily, more flexibly. This product was ushered in to help people do that, and does that by helping people cut the amount of interest expense they pay over the term of their loan and accelerate the payoff. These are also commonly known as mortgage accelerators or accelerated mortgages. They're also known as offset loans to help people reduce their interest expense. So the all-in-one loan is intended to help people reduce what they owe on their house, and with it, the amount of interest they pay on the debt that they owe currently, which is a good thing. It's a form of innovation that I think the public is craving for, and they don't see that often in the mortgage space.
Absolutely. And I think about when someone comes in, for mortgage financing, right off the bat, I like to let them know that we want to look at both sides of the balance sheet, right? So not just putting them into a liability, but looking at the assets that really make homeownership one of the best, if not the best, wealth creator out there. Specifically in Fort Collins and Northern Colorado, we've come to almost expect appreciation north of 8% year over year. We
Totally.
like our equity gains, but it's not anything we're doing through 30-year fixed rate mortgages.
The average person really counts on home appreciation. The burden of the debt is sort of offset emotionally, at least, by the amount of equity you're gaining in your home. And if you think about it, that's sort of artificial. You don't really realize, that equity gain doesn't materialize until you actually sell your home, right? And most people who are homeowners today with a mortgage don't necessarily want to have to sell their home in order to live more securely, right? That's not the point of home ownership. So to your point, you're right. Traditional mortgages aren't designed to reduce your mortgage principal very rapidly. In fact, it's an extremely slow process. And that's because mortgages are amortized instruments, meaning that the amount of your money that you pay towards the mortgage on a monthly basis is cut in one part principal, one part interest. And we don't control as borrowers how much of our money goes to each, right? We don't say, hey, I want most of my money to go to principal this month. We can't make those decisions. It's predetermined. It's part of the repayment schedule that we've agreed to. The downside to that ultimately is that it keeps your balance artificially higher than is necessary, because most of your monthly payments are going towards interest expense. Mortgages are preloaded with that interest expense. This is what keeps people in debt, for decades of their lives. And I'll add this to this. I'm sure we'll get into interest rate. The benefit of a low interest rate is mitigated when you're carrying a high balance for a long period of time. So in other words, low interest rate loans still charge high amounts of interest simply because it takes forever to pay down.
Yeah, again, look no further than your monthly statement. So let's jump into how the mechanics of this loan are actually quite opposite of a traditional mortgage.
First and foremost, a traditional mortgage is what we call closed end instrument, right? So it's a one-way tool. Money only flows in one way in the form of your payment. You can't take money back out, right? You can't go back in and remove the payment you made last month because your hot water heater broke, and you can't, you don't have access to your equity dollars or the money you use to pay your mortgage. They're closed-ended. Behaviorally, what that means is that traditional mortgages sort of create this incentive to want to pay the least amount towards it monthly. And again, that's the problem. When we're paying a minimum or a minimal amount towards mortgage principal, and we're incentivized to do so, you're artificially in debt for longer, which is going to cost you more in the long run. It's also going to impede your progress with other financial goals. Think about all the other things that any one of your clients, Tana, could spend their money on, bigger and better financial needs than a mortgage, right? Structurally, what makes the all-in-one loan so advantageous is that it's what we call an open-end mortgage. Another name for that is a HELOC, home equity lines of credit. So that's really where it begins. We redesigned the home equity line of credit. Probably a lot of your listeners, a lot of your audience is very familiar with how a traditional HELOC works. But we took the idea of a HELOC and we retooled it to be much more flexible. This one is a 30-year draw. It's the only 30-year draw home equity line of credit available in the United States. It takes first lien position, so it serves as your primary mortgage. Mm-hmm. And it gives you this unmatched flexibility, this ability to actually put money into it, take money out of it whenever you want, 24/7. And you're not penalized for that. Your money is always available for you over 30 years. The other component that really makes this beneficial is that it comes with a linked, fully transactional, integrated personal checking account. And I know this is kind of the paradigm shift. You and I both know that this is where the shift in thinking really is required. You're like, gosh, banking and borrowing in one place. It's exactly right. This consolidates the power of your banking. And when I say that, I mean it, the power of your money. Most people don't realize, but they earn more income in just the span of 5 years than they owe on their mortgage. Mm-hmm. And so when you consolidate those two accounts into one, you now create this extremely powerful mechanism, and your cash goes further for you than it would if you just use a traditional checking account and keep those funds separate from your mortgage liability. When you put them together, your cash is used automatically to reduce your daily and monthly and annual mortgage expense dramatically.
Yeah, and it is a shift, right? We as humans have come to expect things to look a certain way, and then electric powered cars come along, and we kind of are behind the eight when it comes to mortgage financing, because our behavior has dictated that we make this payment. And, you and I talk about this a lot, where paying off your home isn't even a goal for folks anymore because it has become so unachievable. And, kind of where I want to go next is, what say someone that's like, well, couldn't I just do this with a traditional HELOC, just kind of manage it myself? What are some of those daily integrations that can actually change someone's mind?
Yeah. They are different. Not all HELOCs are designed the same, right? We hear that, as as well. Why can't I just make extra payments to my the conventional 30-year loan, right? It's got a fixed rate. It's nice and low. I'll probably never see a rate that low ever in my life again. Yep. Never say never, right? Never say never. We thought rates couldn't be this low a few years back, but surprise, right? And so, but we hear this a lot. Why can't I just make extra payments, or why can't I just use a traditional HELOC and keep my first, lien mortgage, my 30-year loan in place? Why can't I use the flexibility of a traditional HELOC? The differences may seem small, but they make an enormous impact. First and foremost, the problem with the way we pay for real estate through mortgages is that loans are amortized. They restrict your progress. Mm-hmm. Not all of your money goes to principal. The all-in-one loan, which is a home equity line of credit, applies all of your money that you put towards it to principal first, never interest first, never. Mm-hmm. If I put $1 towards my all-in-one loan, my balance reduces by $1 today. If I put $100 towards it, or $1,000 or $10,000 towards my all-in-one loan today, regardless of the day I do it during the month, 100% of those funds reduces my principal balance that day. Even traditional HELOCs don't do that, by the way. When the interest is due on a traditional HELOC and you put some money towards it to reduce your balance, the interest will be taken from the amount you apply towards your HELOC, and only the remaining of those funds will be applied to your principal. So even a traditional HELOC isn't a truly principal paid first mortgage product. The other thing about the all-in-one loan that is wildly different is that it computes interest nightly. So every 24 hours, the all-in-one loan recomputes interest based on your daily unpaid principal balance. It occurs actually at midnight. So think about that for a second. You engage your line of credit, your mortgage, through your deposits and your withdrawal activity, through your banking activity. You make a deposit into the all-in-one loan checking account, your principal balance drops in your mortgage that day. You're using your cash to effectively save interest at the rate of the loan itself. And then from there, it's going to recompute interest. Even if you spend a little money later today or tomorrow towards groceries or to fill that gas tank or on a cell phone bill, the bulk of your income is still leveraged against your principal balance, which means that as it recomputes interest daily, you're shrinking the amount of interest expense that you are committed to pay on a monthly basis. And it does that automatically. These are all the things that make it wildly different from a traditional HELOC, and obviously wildly different from a traditional loan, and accelerate the payoff.
Right. I think it was Einstein that said, the eighth wonder of the world is interest.
Compound
right?
interest. Yeah. Compounding interest. You're right. Yeah, totally. And this is simple interest recalculated nightly, but your savings compounds, which is exactly what Einstein was talking about.
Going back to this loan kind of being the solution, right? Paying simple interest over time, over a budget that you set for yourself.
Right.
We're not asking you to change your lifestyle.
Correct.
We're just asking that you kind of see it over a monthly time frame versus, your day one money leaves the account and you'll never see it again.
Yeah, no budgetary change. I mean, it's an awesome point to make. And I think that's another really key difference, right? I mean, if you're somebody and you're considering, how do I pay off my loan faster? Because we know a lot of things demographically about those of us that owe mortgage debt. The vast majority of mortgage debt out there, Tana, is owed by Gen Xers and baby boomers. Still about 60% of baby boomers, folks that are approaching retirement, if not, doing it now, still owe a balance on their mortgage and are far from being paid off. Gen Xers owe most of that mortgage debt. So we're talking about people that are not that far out of having to send their kids to college, right? And they're trying to meet those goals. They're trying to save for retirement. All the meanwhile, we're experiencing some inflation. We have for years, by the way. This isn't a new thing. There's been real inflation occurring. Just look at the price of an automobile or a house. Prices have inflated over the last decade without question. But there's now some other spaces or areas or consumer goods that are now inflating for lack of supply and supply chain disruption and whatnot due to COVID and other variables. Meanwhile, life is getting more and more expensive for people and harder to tuck away the money you need to live a financially secure life, later on, right? Especially during retirement. When you think about trying to pay down a mortgage a little bit faster, to your point, it would require you to change your habits. It would require you to probably cut back on some portion of your lifestyle, of your expenses, in order to afford, putting extra towards your traditional loan. And that's risky too, because traditional loans aren't liquid. They don't keep your money available. Right. And I think that's the big advantage of the all-in-one. It's using your entire paycheck, your liquid savings that you have right now that you're earning near 0% on. And you're now using that to reduce your mortgage balance and therefore reduce your exposure to mortgage interest costs. And that just gets you out of debt faster.
I couldn't agree more with the demographics that you're speaking to, because as you're nearing that retirement age, getting closer to living off of a more fixed income, perhaps, that's when you're not going to be willing to cut back. Right. And
right.
Whether you're 55 or 25, I think education around this product needs to be talked about. So I really appreciate our time today, and maybe we could do this again soon.
I would love to. I appreciate it. And thank you for all your effort. That you're right. The universe needs to know this exists. We do a lot of business on it, but there's 58 million households that owe a mortgage today. The vast majority of that is on a traditional 30-year loan. There's a better way to do it. And so people need to know about it. So I appreciate your time, Tana.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dave.